The video that you're currently watching, isn't gonna be super interesting for you. I don't know if it's gonna be super interesting for me either, but essentially the thing is this. You know Adobe, they suck. Like they're terrible, and I despise them, and I especially despise the chokehold that they have on like the creative industry. At this point, you pretty much need to use the Adobe suite. And the Adobe suite can be upwards of $80 a month. And while that is a high barrier of entry, I guess I could kind of understand it if at least their software worked, but it doesn't. It's terrible garbage. It crashes, it freezes, it's super slow, and despite them making an insane amount of money, they're not really pushing any worthwhile updates pretty much ever. However, there is possibly a hero. And that hero is Blackmagic Resolve. It started out as a color grading software, and it has now become a fully fledged editing software that can supposedly replace both Premiere, where you do the brunt of the editing, and After Effects, where you do more complicated effects. But no matter what, I want to start dipping my little tippy toes into the Resolve waters. So this video that you're watching right now is completely edited in Resolve, and I'm gonna try to like kind of work with that a little bit in the background until I'm comfortable enough to maybe even do a main channel video.
Plot twist. Most of what I said isn't true. Mainly that everything you've been watching so far has been edited in DaVinci Resolve. Turns out that's not gonna happen, and you could pretty much say that this video is a failure. But I still want to share my thoughts, and I want to explain why. And so yeah, here I go, a little rant. Basically what Premiere has is it has a very and this is all subjective according to me, it has a very logical workflow. Like things are where you kind of expect them to be. Like I came from Sony Vegas 100 years ago over to Premiere, and it feels like within a couple of days I was almost as fluent in Premiere as I was in Vegas. And like I want to say like the usability or not the usability, like the ease of use with Premiere is really good. What Premiere doesn't have, like where it lacks, is that it's not very smooth. Like it lags a lot, it gets slow, and the updates are terrible. They don't come out as frequently as they should, and they focus on the always least relevant thing. They update some weird old transition that no one cares about, but they're still on the playback engine that they released in 2009, and just strange shit like that. And my experience is now that DaVinci is the opposite, kinda. DaVinci seems to work very well. It's very smooth. The files just, they chug along. No need for proxies, no need for anything really. It just kind of works. But instead, like the ease of use is not there. And it has a bunch of seemingly small quirks, but that end up not being very small. They end up being pretty significant to the workflow of, I think, a lot of like professional editors. To give an example, your playhead in Premiere, you hit space to play and it starts moving along the track like this. And then you click somewhere else and the playhead hops over there and it stops there. This is logical because you're kind of looking at the audio waveforms and clicking somewhere to get the playhead to stop there so that you can cut there or do something there. In Resolve, you click and it keeps going. So it's like going, and then you click over here and it goes, and it just keeps moving. And that's a pretty small thing. But over time, it's going to add up the fact that you need to like find where you want to go, click there, click space to pause it again, and like kind of adjust it. It's just strange. Another thing is that snapping, which is that the stuff on the timeline feels a bit magnetized. Like you get a clip close to the edge of this clip over here, and it goes when it gets close, right? That's all well and good. That's in Premiere. That's a very necessary feature. Otherwise, you would have little secret black frames everywhere, and audio would get out of sync, and it would be terrible. But in DaVinci, the playhead also is magnetized and snapping. So when you're like moving around the playhead trying to get to where you want to be, it's gonna like automatically move away, and you need precision when editing. And then the alternative is to turn off snapping, but then that turns off snapping for all the clips as well. And you kind of need that. And little things like this. I'm gonna do one more example that for me just kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back a little bit. Making keyframes for scale and position on a clip is, I think, super vital when you're making online content. Like, you want to be able to do the little zoom-ins, you want to be able to rotate or just move around the position and like follow an object somehow, or there's always going to be little things you want to do like that. On almost every single shot, I do something like that. When you do that in DaVinci, you do get the keyframes. I don't know if I agree with them having the keyframes where they are. They're like baked into the clip, like underneath. It's a very messy timeline. Should be in a separate window, I think. But that's a matter of preference and something that you could get used to. What I can't get used to, for sure, is the fact that you don't want it to look super stiff, zooming in and zooming out like this. Instead, you want it to be kind of smooth, like this. And you accomplish that by right-clicking your little keyframes and telling it to ease in and ease out and all of that. When you do that in DaVinci, it adds just the strangest sort of easing that I've ever seen, where it kind of, instead of going just like, it instead goes, kind of. And yeah, and I know there's other ways to do it. You could like keyframe the anchor point instead, and you can go into the fusion workflow thing and add a transform node, and then you can go into like a graph editor there. But every alternative I looked into just looked to be way too complicated for something that you're gonna be constantly do. I can't switch to another workflow every time I need to do a little zoom or something. And yeah, overall, I'm super disappointed because I really want DaVinci to succeed and be good. I want Adobe to get fucked completely. I do not like the chokehold they have on the market. I do not like how much they charge. I do not like how they gatekeep creativity. But as of right now, it seems to me at least that DaVinci is still not like quite there, at least for transitioning editors. To me, I know some people have successfully done it, but I can't, and I won't right now. I do believe that all of these things that I've mentioned, some of them being more minor and some more major, could all be addressed pretty easily, and I hope they listen to the community. I've gone into like their forums because I've Googled these problems that I've had, kind of looking for any sort of solution, and there seems to be a lot of people who've had the exact same complaints that I've had for years, and they haven't been fixed. And that's a bummer, because seemingly little things like this, they add up when you sit in the same software, 8 hours a day. Like, if you're a professional editor, you need to be able to do these things as efficiently as possible. Like the playhead thing, if you need to hit pause an extra time, sure, that's like half a second that you need to spend, or even 1 or 2 seconds, when also accounting for having to adjust where the playhead is. But you do that several times a minute for hours every day. That's gonna add up. And I think currently the amount of little jank like that versus the amount of lag in Premiere kind of cancels itself out. So yeah, for better or worse, it's not possible right now for me to switch. For worse. I don't know why I said for better or worse. It's for worse. I wish I could switch. But it is what it is right now, and I'm gonna give DaVinci a few more years. These were my highly subjective opinions on DaVinci Resolve as of right now. Cool. Thank you for listening to me rant. Now I'm gonna finish installing a fresh copy of Windows on my PC and keep working on the next YouTube video for the main channel. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.